when a desperate single mother collapses in an upscale restaurant while returning baby formula she can't afford. A grief-stricken billionaire CEO intervenes, sparking a collision of two broken worlds that will either destroy them both or forge an impossible alliance that challenges everything they thought they knew about family, power, and redemption. The rain hammered against the windshield, like accusations. Sarah Mitchell, 34, gripped the steering wheel of her 15-year-old Honda Civic, knuckles bone white as she navigated through the affluent Pearl District. Her scrubs were still damp from the hospital, where she'd finished her second shift. 6 hours of sleep in 3 days. Her eyes burned. In the rearview mirror, her daughter Emma, 5 years old, gap-toothed, with wild auburn curls, clutched a worn stuffed rabbit. "Mama, why are we going to the fancy store?" Sarah's throat tightened. "Because sometimes, baby, we have to return things we can't keep." The organic baby formula, prescribed by Emma's pediatrician for her severe allergies, sat in the passenger seat. $47.99. The check had bounced. Again. Sarah had already pawned her grandmother's ring, picked up a weekend cleaning shift, and sold her laptop. But the daycare needed payment by Friday, or Emma would lose her spot. And without daycare, Sarah would lose her nursing job. And without her nursing job, the spiral had no bottom. She pulled into the parking lot of Meridian Market, an upscale grocery boutique that catered to tech executives and trust fund millennials. Everything here cost 3 times what it should. But they were the only store within 40 miles that carried Emma's formula. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, unbuckling Emma. Meridian Market gleamed like a temple to excess. Vaulted ceilings, Edison bulbs dangling from brass fixtures, artisanal cheese displays that cost more than Sarah's rent. Young professionals in Lululemon and tailored suits glided through aisles of organic quinoa and small batch kombucha. Sarah felt every eye turn toward them. Her thrift store coat, Emma's hand-me-down shoes with the sole peeling away. They were ghosts here, visible only as inconveniences. At the customer service counter, a woman named Petra, mid-40s, severe bun, lips pressed into a line of perpetual disapproval, glanced up from her computer. "I need to return this," Sarah said quietly, sliding the formula across the marble counter. Petra's eyes narrowed. "Receipt?" Sarah fumbled through her purse, hands shaking. Found it. Slid it across. "This was purchased 4 days ago. Our return policy is 3 days for perishables." "It's not perishable. It's sealed. Please." "Policy is policy." Petra's voice could cut glass. "I just need..." Sarah felt her vision blur. When had she last eaten? "My daughter needs this formula, but I can't afford it right now, and if I could just..." "If you can't afford it, perhaps you should shop somewhere more appropriate." The words hung in the air like carbon monoxide, invisible, suffocating. Emma tugged Sarah's sleeve. "Mama?" Across the store, near the wine section that required a separate membership to access, stood Alexander Hartwell. At 42, he was a monument to controlled power. 6'2". Charcoal Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Salt and pepper hair swept back with the casual precision of old money meeting new achievement. CEO of Hartwell Industries, a tech empire valued at $8.3 billion. He stood before a wall of $400 bottles, seeing none of them. It had been 3 months since the accident. 3 months since his wife Claire and their 7-year-old son Marcus had been driving home from Marcus's piano recital when a drunk driver crossed the median. 3 months since Alexander had been in an emergency board meeting, ignoring Claire's call because he was busy destroying a competitor's merger attempt. 3 months since he'd learned that sometimes the whole world can end while you're on mute. He hadn't slept more than 2 hours a night since. Hadn't laughed, hadn't felt anything except the white noise of surviving. His therapist called it complicated grief. Alexander called it Friday. He reached for a bottle, didn't matter which one, when a small voice cut through his fog. "That's mean." Emma had let go of Sarah's hand. She stood 3 feet from Alexander Hartwell, staring up at him with the unfiltered moral clarity that only 5-year-olds possess. "Excuse me?" Alexander looked down, startled out of his numbness. "That lady was mean to my mama." Emma pointed back toward the customer service counter. "Mean people make baby Jesus sad. Despite everything, despite the crushing weight of grief that had turned his chest into a tomb." Alexander felt something flicker. Curiosity, maybe, or the ghost of amusement. "Is that right? My mama works really hard. She's a nurse. She helps sick people. But that lady made her cry." Emma's bottom lip trembled. "Are you going to be mean too?" Alexander followed Emma's pointed finger. At the counter, he saw a woman in her 30s, exhausted, desperate, beautiful in a way that suffering sometimes makes people beautiful, pleading with the store employee. "I work 2 jobs, the woman was saying. "I'm not trying to cheat anyone. I just need—" "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you can't conduct yourself appropriately." Something in Alexander's chest cracked. Not his grief. That was welded shut. Something older. Something he thought he'd abandoned when he climbed from middle-class obscurity to the Forbes 400. His father's voice. "A man's character isn't measured by what he builds. It's measured by what he protects." He'd failed to protect Marcus. Failed to protect Claire. But maybe— "Stay here," he told Emma. "Are you going to help my mama?" Alexander looked down at this tiny, fierce creature who smelled like kid shampoo and misplaced faith. Yes. Alexander crossed the store in 12 strides. Power radiates differently, depending on the man. Some men bluster. Some men threaten. Alexander simply existed, with the quiet certainty of someone who could buy this entire store with a phone call. "Is there a problem?" His voice was Sierra Nevada snowmelt, cold, clear, absolute. Petra looked up, recognized him immediately. Every employee at Meridian knew Alexander Hartwell. He spent $30,000 a year here on groceries and wine he barely touched. "Mr. Hartwell, no problem. Just a customer who doesn't understand our policies." Sarah turned, and for one suspended moment, their eyes met. Alexander saw everything he'd been 3 months ago. The desperation of someone drowning in plain sight. The humiliation of needing help. The fury at a world designed to kick you when you're down. "What's the policy?" Alexander asked. 3-day returns on perishables. This formula was purchased 4 days ago. Alexander picked up the sealed canister. "This doesn't expire for 18 months. Hardly perishable. Store policy is flexible, I imagine, depending on the customer." He set down his wine, $892 for a bottle of Chateau Margaux. "Process her return, charge the difference to my account. And while you're at it, give her enough formula for the next 3 months." Sarah's eyes went wide. "No, I can't." "You're not," Alexander said, still looking at Petra. "I am." "Sir, I don't think." Alexander's gaze could freeze helium. "I donate $250,000 annually to this store's parent company. I sit on their advisory board. Process the return, provide the formula, or explain to your regional manager why you drove away their largest investor over a $50 dispute." Petra's face flushed red, then white. "Of course, Mr. Hartwell. Right away." Sarah stood frozen as Petra, now dripping with obsequious courtesy, processed everything. The refund. 3 months of formula. Boxed and bagged. Petra even threw in organic baby food and a $100 store credit for the inconvenience. Emma had run back to Sarah's side, gripping her hand. When it was done, Sarah turned to Alexander. Up close, she could see the grief carved into him like canyon walls. This was a man who'd forgotten how to smile, but remembered how to stand. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything." Alexander turned to leave. "Wait." Sarah's voice stopped him. "Why did you do that?" Alexander looked at Emma, who was staring at him with open adoration. "Because someone should have," he said quietly, "and no one did." "Are you a superhero?" Emma asked, still staring at Alexander. Despite himself, Alexander almost smiled. "Almost. No. You saved my mama. That's what superheroes do." Sarah gently tugged Emma back. "Honey, let's let the nice man." "Have you had dinner?" The words left Alexander's mouth before his brain could intercept them. Sarah blinked. "What?" "Dinner. Food. It's nearly 7. He didn't know why he was asking. Didn't know why this exhausted woman and her gap-toothed daughter made him feel something other than the endless gray static of grief. But they did. "We can't possibly." "The restaurant upstairs. Aurelius. I eat there most nights. It's quiet. That place costs." Sarah stopped herself. Of course he knew what it cost. "My treat. Consider it an apology for Petra's behavior." Emma tugged Sarah's hand. "Mama, can we? They have the fancy plates with gold on them. I saw them once through the window." Sarah looked at her daughter's hopeful face, then at this strange, sad billionaire who'd materialized like a plot twist in her disaster of a life. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The elevator to Aurelius was mirrored and hushed. Emma pressed herself against the glass, watching the store recede below them. Alexander stood in the corner, hands in his pockets, studying Sarah's reflection. She was examining him too, he realized. "You don't have to do this," Sarah said. "I know." "Then why?" Alexander watched Emma's reflection, this tiny human who radiated joy, despite wearing shoes held together with hope. He thought of Marcus. Marcus would have been 8 next month. Marcus, who loved dinosaurs and hated broccoli, and laughed like summer rain. "Because it's Friday," Alexander said, "and I don't want to eat alone." The elevator doors opened onto Aurelius. Aurelius wasn't a restaurant, it was a statement. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's glittering sprawl. Tables spaced for privacy, conversations, and closed deals. Crystal chandeliers that cost more than Sarah's annual income. A piano in the corner, where a woman in a black dress played Chopin like a whispered confession. The maitre d', Laurent, silver-haired, French, immaculate, greeted Alexander with the warmth reserved for men who tip in 4 figures. "Monsieur Hartwell, your usual table?" "Yes, but for 3 tonight." Laurent's gaze flickered to Sarah and Emma, cataloging their discount store clothes, Emma's scuffed shoes, Sarah's obvious discomfort, and something cooled in his expression. "Of course, though I should mention our dress code." "Won't be a problem," Alexander said flatly. "Will it?" Laurent's smile returned, plastic perfect. "Not at all, monsieur." They were led to a corner table, the best in the house, naturally. Emma gasped at the view. "Mama, look! You can see everything!" That Sarah was watching the other diners, watching them watch her. She saw the judgments land like arrows, the wrinkled scrubs, the clearance rack coat, the desperation that no amount of soap could wash away. A woman in Chanel whispered to her companion. A man in Armani raised his phone, snapping a photo. Sarah felt herself shrinking. Alexander saw it too, and felt the old rage kindle. The rage he'd buried under success and sophistication, and the belief that he'd transcended the indignities of need. Champagne, he told the sommelier, and your children's menu. They barely sat down when the assault began. A waiter, young, handsome, dripping with the casual cruelty of someone who'd never been hungry, approached with water glasses. He set them down in front of Alexander and Emma with care. Sarah's glass he practically dropped. Will you be dining with Mr. Hartwell? The pause before dining contained volumes. She's my guest, Alexander said, voice level but edged. Of course, I just wanted to ensure. You want to ensure nothing except that she's treated with respect. Can you manage that? The waiter's smile tightened. Absolutely, sir. But the damage was done. Sarah felt the heat crawl up her neck. Every eye in the restaurant was on them now. Every whisper. Who is she? Look at that child's shoes. Probably after his money. How did they even get in here? Emma, blissfully oblivious, was studying the menu with scholarly intensity. Mama, what's pan-seared scallops with microgreens and truffle essence? Fancy fish, baby. Can I have the fancy fish? Sarah saw the price, $68, for a child's portion. Her stomach lurched. Maybe the pasta. Order whatever you want, Alexander said. He was watching Sarah's face, reading the calculation of every dollar against the weight of her daughter's happiness. Mr. Hartwell, we really shouldn't. Alexander. And yes, you should. Dinner arrived. Emma attacked her scallops with the enthusiasm of someone who usually ate boxed mac and cheese. Sarah picked at her salad. 43 for leaves and vinegar, unable to enjoy anything while drowning in shame. Alexander ordered the duck. Didn't taste it. He was watching Sarah fall apart in slow motion. You're a nurse, he said finally. Sarah looked up, startled. Emma told you? She did. Where? St. Catherine's, ER. Night shift usually, but I pick up days when I can. And the other jobs? Sarah set down her fork. How did you said 2 jobs downstairs. Emma mentioned a third. I clean houses on weekends. And sometimes I do medical transcription from home when Emma's asleep. Sarah's voice was brittle glass. Is there a point to this interrogation? No interrogation, just curiosity. Rich people call it curiosity. Poor people call it prying. Alexander smiled. Actually smiled. Small, but real. Fair. Emma looked between them, then at Alexander. Are you going to marry my mama? Sarah choked on her water. Alexander's smile evaporated. The table went silent. Emma, Jesus, you should, Emma continued, undeterred. You're nice. And you're sad. My mama's sad too sometimes. Maybe you could be sad together, and then happy. Out of the mouths of children, truth arrives like a grenade. Alexander stared at Emma, this tiny philosopher in a stained Disney t-shirt, and felt something crack wider in his chest. She was right. He was sad. This woman was sad. But Emma wasn't sad. Emma was radiant. How was that possible? I had a son, Alexander heard himself say. His name was Marcus. Sarah's eyes widened. Had? He died. 3 months ago. Car accident. He was 7. The restaurant noise, the clinking glasses, the murmured conversations, all of it fell away. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered. My mama's husband died too, Emma said. But he wasn't nice. He yelled a lot. Sarah's face went white. Emma? It's okay, Mama. You said we don't have to lie about it anymore. You said truth is better than secrets. It happened fast. Sarah stood abruptly swaying. Excuse me, I need. She took 2 steps toward the restroom. Then her knees buckled. Alexander moved before thought, crossed the space in a heartbeat, caught her before she hit the marble floor. She weighed nothing. How was it possible to weigh nothing? Sarah. Her eyes fluttered. I'm fine, just dizzy. When did you last eat? This morning. No. Yesterday morning. Christ. The restaurant erupted, diners standing, phones out, Laurent rushing over with the panic of a man watching his Michelin rating implode. Shall I call an ambulance? No, Sarah mumbled. No ambulances. Can't afford. Get her some juice. Alexander snapped at Laurent. And bread. Now. Emma stood frozen, her tiny face crumbling. Mama? Alexander carried Sarah to a private dining room, reserved for corporate dinners and marriage proposals that cost more than weddings. He set her on a velvet sofa. Emma climbed up beside her, gripping her hand. Laurent appeared with orange juice and warm bread. Sarah drank, color slowly returning. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. This is mortifying. When did you last sleep? Alexander asked. I don't. 2 days ago. Maybe 3. 3 jobs. 3 days without sleep. When did you last see a doctor? I am a doctor. Nurse. Same thing. It's not the same thing. Alexander pulled out his phone. I'm calling my physician. No. Sarah grabbed his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Please. No more charity. I can't. I've taken enough from you. You've taken nothing. I've given. There's a difference. Not to me. They stared at each other. Emma watched them both, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Then Sarah did something that shocked them all. She laughed. Not a happy laugh. A broken, hysterical laugh that came from someplace deep and untouched. You want to know the really funny part? She said. Before today, I was a ghost. Invisible. The woman scrubbing your toilets, drawing your blood, cleaning up your messes. No one sees people like me. We're just scenery. But then you saw me, and I feel worse. Because now I can't pretend anymore. Now I have to face how far I've fallen. Emma pressed against her mother. You didn't fall, Mama. You're flying. Like Superman, remember? You said single moms are superheroes. Sarah's face crumpled. She pulled Emma close, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Alexander looked away, giving them privacy. But Emma wouldn't let him escape. Why are you crying too? She asked. Alexander touched his face. His cheeks were wet. Wet. He hadn't realized. Because, he said quietly, I forgot what brave looked like. Your mother just reminded me. 20 minutes later, Sarah had composed herself. Emma had fallen asleep against her shoulder, the sleep of children who feel safe. I was married, Sarah said softly. For 6 years. He was charming at first. Funny. Then he got mean. Then he got violent. I left when Emma was 2. He died in a bar fight 8 months later. Everyone said I was heartless for not crying at his funeral. But how do you mourn a man who broke your ribs? Alexander said nothing. Just listened. I had some money saved. Not much. Wanted to go back to school, finish my nursing degree. But Emma got sick. Her allergies, the respiratory issues, medical bills. They just bury you. Before I knew it, I was working 3 jobs just to keep us fed and housed. Every month, I'm one emergency from being homeless. Every single month. Why didn't you ask for help? From who? My parents disowned me when I married him. Said I was making a mistake. They were right. His family blamed me for his death. Said I should have been a better wife. I have no siblings. No friends, really. When you're this poor, people stop calling. You become uncomfortable to be around. So you do it alone. I do it alone. That's not strength, Alexander said. That's punishment. Sarah looked at him sharply. What would you know about it? You're a billionaire. I wasn't always. Alexander leaned back, stared at the ceiling. My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses, not unlike your weekend job. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 siblings. Ate dinner by candlelight because we couldn't afford the electric bill. I know exactly what it's like to be invisible. Sarah's expression softened. How did you? Scholarships, luck, obsessive work. And once I made my first million, I swore I'd never be poor again. So I kept climbing and climbing until I was so high up I couldn't see the ground anymore. Couldn't see the people I'd stepped on to get there. Couldn't see my wife and son except in passing. His voice broke. Claire called me the day of the accident. Marcus wanted to tell me about his recital, but I was in a meeting. I sent it to voicemail. That was the last time they called. Sarah reached across the space between them, took his hand. Her fingers were rough from work, warm from life. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. They sat like that, 2 broken people holding each other together across a gulf of wealth and grief and impossibility. Emma stirred, mumbled something about pancakes, then fell back asleep. She likes you, Sarah said. I like her. She's honest. That's 5-year-olds for you. No filter. No agenda either. No one's wanted something from me in years without wanting my money, my influence, my connections. Emma just wanted me to help you. That's it. That's revolutionary. Sarah smiled despite herself. Don't let her fool you. She wants Disney Plus subscription too. Alexander laughed. Actually, laughed. The sound felt foreign in his throat, like speaking a language he'd forgotten. Laurent appeared at the door, apologetic. Monsieur Hartwell. I'm terribly sorry for the disturbance earlier. I've ensured your meal is complimentary, and I've spoken to the staff about... Don't bother, Alexander said. We both know what happened. Your staff treated my guest like garbage because she wasn't wearing the right costume. Fire them or train them. I don't care which. But if it happens again, you'll lose more than my business. Laurent paled. Of course, monsieur. My sincerest apologies. When he left, Sarah shook her head. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Because it was wrong. And because I'm tired of pretending wrong is acceptable when it's convenient. Spoken like someone who's never had to choose between pride and survival. You think I haven't? Alexander's voice went hard. My first job out of college, I worked for a venture capital firm. My boss sexually harassed every female employee under 30. I reported him to HR. They fired me, paid him a bonus, and blacklisted me from the industry. I lived in my car for 3 months. Pride doesn't feed you, but sometimes it's all you have left. Sarah studied him with new eyes. What happened? I built my own company, outcompeted them, bought them, fired everyone who'd protected him. Took 11 years, but I did it. Revenge as business strategy. Healthy? Never said it was healthy. Said it worked. Emma woke up, rubbed her eyes. Are we going home? Sarah checked her phone. 9:47 p.m. Yeah, baby. We need to get you to bed. Can Mr. Alexander come? Both adults froze. Emma, honey, Mr. Alexander has his own home. But he's sad, and we have that extra pillow. And you always say sharing is caring. Alexander felt something dangerous bloom in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or the memory of hope. Not tonight, he said gently to Emma. But maybe I could take you both somewhere tomorrow. Somewhere fun. Emma's eyes went huge. Like Disneyland? Period. Sarah's voice was sharp with embarrassment. Not quite. But somewhere good, if your mom agrees. He looked at Sarah. Their eyes met and held. Why are you doing this? Sarah asked. Really? Alexander thought about Claire, about Marcus, about the last 3 months of sleepwalking through existence, waiting for some reason to feel something again. Because you make me remember, he said quietly, what it's like to need something, to fight for something. Emma makes me remember what joy looks like. And I thought I'd never remember again. Sarah's eyes glistened. Okay, tomorrow. Alexander insisted on driving them home. Sarah protested. Of course she did. But Emma had already fallen asleep again, and Alexander's Mercedes was warm and safe, and Sarah was so tired. They drove through the rain-slicked streets in silence. Emma snored softly in the back seat. Sarah stared out the window at the city lights bleeding past. Where do you live? Alexander asked. Sarah gave him an address in a neighborhood that made him wince. He didn't say anything. Didn't have to. Yeah, Sarah said. It's not great, but it's ours. They pulled up to apartment complex, 6 stories of peeling paint and chain-link despair. But the window on the 3rd floor had a child's drawing taped to it. A house, a sun, a family of stick figures holding hands. That's Emma's, Sarah said, following his gaze. She draws a new one every week. Her dream house always has 3 people in it now. Used to just be 2. The 3rd person? A dad. Any dad. She doesn't remember her father. Just knows she's supposed to have one. Alexander's throat tightened. Sarah unbuckled Emma carefully. Alexander moved to help, and together they carried the sleeping child upstairs. The stairwell smelled like cigarettes and failure. Sarah's apartment was small, maybe 600 square feet, but spotlessly clean, cheerful. Kids' books everywhere, art on the walls, cheap prints but chosen with care. They laid Emma in her bed, a twin with princess sheets. Sarah tucked her in, kissed her forehead. When they stepped back into the living room, Alexander looked around properly, saw the stack of medical bills on the counter, the empty refrigerator visible through the kitchen doorway, the thermostat set to 62 degrees to save money. Thank you, Sarah said, for everything today. I don't know why you did it, but I want to hire you. Sarah blinked. What? I have a house, 15,000 square feet. I live there alone. Have a staff of 6, housekeeper, chef, groundskeeper, driver, 2 assistants. But I need someone to manage things, coordinate. Someone organized, capable, trustworthy. You don't know me. I know enough. 6-figure salary, health insurance, housing, if you want it. You'd have your own wing. Sarah stepped back like he'd struck her. No. Why not? Because it's pity. Because I'm not your charity project. Because you're proud, Alexander said. I get it. But is your pride worth more than Emma's future? That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You taught me that today. Sarah's hand shook. Why? Because I need someone who isn't afraid to tell me the truth. Someone who sees me, not my money. And because Emma deserves better than this. He gestured at the threadbare couch, the peeling linoleum. You both do. I need to think about it. Think fast. Offer expires Monday. He left before she could argue. Left before his own emotions could betray him further. In the hallway, he pressed his forehead against the cold concrete wall and thought about Marcus. About the room in his house that still smelled like childhood. Legos and grape juice and innocence. Maybe this wasn't about helping Sarah at all. Maybe this was about saving himself. Monday came. Sarah called at 8 a.m. I'll take the job. Good. Alexander felt something unclench in his chest. Can you start today? I have to give notice at... I'll pay whatever severance you need. Emma can start at Whitmore Academy. Best private school in the state. I'll handle the enrollment. Silence on the line. This is too much, Sarah whispered. It's not enough. Come to my office at 10. We'll handle paperwork. But when Sarah arrived at Hartwell Industries, a gleaming tower of glass and steel downtown, she walked into a war zone. The lobby was packed with reporters. Camera flashes. Shouted questions. Mr. Hartwell, is it true your board is calling for your removal? Alexander stood at the security desk, perfectly composed, but with death in his eyes. What's going on? Sarah asked, pushing through the crowd. Alexander saw her, and something in his expression cracked. Sarah, you shouldn't be here. Too late. What happened? A reporter shoved a phone in her face. Are you the woman from the viral video? What video? The reporter pulled up footage. Security camera from Aurelius. Sarah and Emma entering. Alexander defending them. Sarah collapsing. All of it edited to look like Billionaire CEO's Secret Family? The headline read, Alexander Hartwell, caught supporting mistress and love child. Sarah's stomach dropped. We're not. But the damage was done. Upstairs, in the 47th floor boardroom, 12 board members sat in judgment. Victoria Chen, the company's COO, and Alexander's longtime rival, led the charge. Gentlemen, ladies, the evidence is clear. Alexander Hartwell has become a liability. His judgment is compromised. His personal life is a scandal. And most importantly, she slid documents across the table. He's violated his moratorium agreement. What moratorium? Alexander's voice was ice. The one you signed 3 months ago, after Claire and Marcus died. You agreed to recuse yourself from major decisions while grieving. You were supposed to be on bereavement leave. Instead, you've been making unilateral choices, alienating key investors, and now this. She gestured at her tablet, showing the viral photos. You're using my dead family as ammunition? I'm protecting this company from your deteriorating mental state. Alexander looked around the table. These people, his board, his advisors, some he'd known for 20 years. All of them avoided his eyes. This is a coup, he said softly. This is an intervention, Victoria corrected. Step down voluntarily, take a severance package, and we'll handle this quietly. Or we'll call a vote. And Alexander, you'll lose. In the hallway outside, Sarah waited with Emma. A little girl was nervous. First day at a new school. Weird energy everywhere. Cameras and strangers. A woman approached them. Mid-30s, Armani suit, predatory smile. You must be Sarah Mitchell. Who are you? Jessica Park, Hartwell Industries head of communications. Can we talk? They moved to a conference room. Jessica pulled up a chair, all false warmth. Sarah, I'm going to be honest with you. Alexander is having a mental breakdown. He's fixated on you and your daughter because you remind him of his dead family. It's textbook transference. We need to get him help, but he won't listen to us. He'll listen to you. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Think about it. A billionaire randomly helps a stranger. Offers her a job she's not qualified for. Wants to pay for private school. That's not kindness, honey. That's delusion. Sarah felt cold spread through her chest. You're lying. Am I? Check his history. Did you know he's prescribed 4 different psychiatric medications? Did you know he's been hospitalized twice since the accident? Did you know his therapist filed a report expressing concerns about his decision-making? Stop. I'm trying to help you. If you care about him at all, convince him to step down. Let him get treatment. Because if you don't, this ends badly for everyone, including Emma. The threat was subtle, but it landed. Sarah found Alexander in his office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture. A desk that probably cost more than her car. He stood with his back to her, hands pressed against the glass. "They're trying to take my company," he said without turning. "I just talked to Jessica Park." Now he turned. "And?" "She said you're having a breakdown. That I'm some kind of surrogate family. That you need help." Alexander's laugh was bitter, efficient. "Did she also tell you about the medications, the hospitalizations?" "Very thorough, Victoria's team." "Is it true?" "Which part?" "Any of it." Alexander walked to his desk, pulled out a bottle of pills, threw them down. "Ambien. For sleep. Prescribed 3 months ago. That's it. The hospitalizations? One was when I collapsed from exhaustion at Claire's funeral. The other was when I checked myself in for 2 days because I couldn't stop seeing Marcus's face every time I closed my eyes. As for my therapist, she never filed any report. That's a fabrication." Sarah picked up the pill bottle, checked the label. "Recent prescription. Nothing else." "Why would they lie?" "Because Victoria wants my seat. She's been circling for years. My grief gave her an opening. Us, gave her ammunition. And she's using it. So what do we do?" Alexander looked at her. Really looked at her. "We. Sarah, you don't have to be part of this. Take the money I offered you. Take Emma. Disappear. I'll handle—" "No. No." Sarah set down the pills. "You stood up for me when no one else did. You saw me when I was invisible. And now you need someone to see you. So no. We fight. You don't know what you're signing up for. I'm a single mom with 3 jobs and no backup plan. I've been fighting my whole life. This is just a different arena." Alexander felt something shift. Not hope, not yet, but something close to it. "They want me to resign by end of business today," he said. "If I don't, they're calling a shareholder vote. I'll lose. Then we make sure you don't lose." "How?" Sarah thought about every hospital board meeting she'd sat through. Every time she'd advocated for a patient against insurance companies. Every time she'd fought systems designed to crush people like her. "We remind them why you built this company in the first place," she said. "What was it? Why did you start Hardwell Industries?" Alexander smiled, small, but genuine. "Because I wanted to prove that success doesn't require cruelty. That you can build something without destroying people. That power should protect, not exploit. Then show them, publicly, today." At 3 p.m., Alexander called a press conference. Victoria tried to block it, but he was still CEO. For 6 more hours at least. And what he said went. The room was packed. Reporters, shareholders, board members looking murderous. Sarah stood in the back with Emma, who held her hand tight. Alexander stepped to the podium. No notes, no teleprompter. 3 months ago, I lost my wife and son in a car accident. Some of you know this. Most of you don't. I don't talk about it because talking makes it real. And most days I can't handle real. Silence. Absolute. Since then, I've been a ghost. Going through motions. Making money without purpose. Building without meaning. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Keep the machine running. Until Friday night, when I met someone who reminded me what machines are for. He gestured to Sarah. Every eye turned. "This is Sarah Mitchell. She's a nurse. Works 80-hour weeks, keeping people alive. She has a 5-year-old daughter. And on Friday, she collapsed from exhaustion in front of me because she hadn't eaten in 2 days. Not because she's reckless. Because she's poor. Because our system is designed to grind people like her into dust." Victoria stood. "Alexander, this is highly inappropriate. Sit down, Victoria." His voice could freeze fire. She sat. "I built this company on a simple principle: do well by doing good. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. I got seduced by quarterly reports and stock prices and beating competitors. I stopped asking, why are we doing this, and only asked, how much can we make? And in the process, I became the kind of person who ignores a phone call from his dying son because he's too busy destroying a rival's merger. He paused, breathed. I don't want to be that person anymore. So here's what I'm proposing. Effective immediately, Hartwell Industries will implement a living wage for every employee, $25 per hour minimum. We will provide fully funded healthcare, including mental health services. We will cap executive compensation at 20 times our lowest paid worker. And we will donate 10% of annual profits to programs supporting working families. The room erupted. You'll bankrupt us. Someone shouted. No, Alexander said calmly. I'll make us profitable in ways that matter, because companies that treat people like humans attract better talent, inspire greater loyalty, and build sustainable success. But if you disagree, if you want to keep the old model, then vote me out. I'll leave quietly, and you can watch this company devour itself from the inside. He stepped away from the podium, walked towards Sarah. I hired Sarah because she's competent, intelligent, and has more integrity in her fingernail than half this board combined. If that makes me crazy, fine. But I've been crazy for 3 months. At least now, I'm crazy with purpose. The board convened at 7 p.m. Shareholders called in remotely. Alexander waited in his office with Sarah and Emma. Emma colored at his desk, drawing another house, another family. Sarah paced. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yes, I did. You might lose everything. I already lost everything. This is just money. Money matters, Alexander. It's the difference between eating and starving, having a home, or sleeping in your car. You don't get to pretend it doesn't matter. You're right, which is why I'm trying to use it correctly. At 8:23 p.m., his phone rang. Alexander answered, put it on speaker. Victoria's voice. The vote was 8-4. You retain your position. Congratulations. She hung up. Sarah gasped. Emma jumped up. You won. But Alexander didn't move, didn't smile. I didn't win, he said quietly. 4 people voted against basic human decency. That's not a victory. That's a reminder of how far we have to go. Sarah crossed to him, put her hand on his shoulder. Then we keep going, she said, until there's nothing left to fight. Emma's new school had a winter performance. Parents packed the auditorium, tech executives and lawyers and people who considered $50,000 annual tuition a rounding error. Sarah sat in the 3rd row, nervous. Alexander sat beside her, in jeans and a sweater. Casual, almost normal. Think she'll remember her lines? Sarah whispered. She'll be perfect. And she was. Emma played a reindeer in the Christmas pageant, complete with construction paper antlers and painted-on nose. She delivered her one line, Santa, the sleigh is ready, with such earnest conviction that the entire audience laughed with delight. Afterward, in the lobby, Emma ran to them. Did you see me? Did you see? You were magnificent, Alexander said, kneeling to her level. Meryl Streep should be worried. Who's Meryl Streep? Someone you'll know when you're older. Sarah watched him, this broken billionaire and her wild-haired daughter, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safety. The possibility of happiness. They got ice cream afterward, all 3 of them crammed into Alexander's Mercedes, Emma sticky and chattering between them. Mr. Alexander, Emma said around a mouthful of chocolate, are you going to be my dad? Sarah nearly crashed the ice cream cone into her lap. Emma. What? I'm just asking. Alexander looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at Alexander. The air between them crackled with unspoken everything. I don't know, Alexander said honestly. Would you want me to be? Emma considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. Do you love my mama? Emma, Jesus. I think I might, Alexander said. Time stopped. Sarah stared at him. What? I think I might love you. Both of you. I don't know if that's grief or gratitude or genuine feeling. But when I'm with you, I remember how to breathe. When Emma talks, I hear what joy sounds like. When you fight me, I feel alive. So yes, I think I might. Emma nodded sagely. Then you should probably kiss her. Emma. But Alexander was smiling. Really smiling. The first real smile since Marcus died. Is that okay? He asked Sarah. Can I kiss you? Sarah's eyes filled. I haven't brushed my teeth in 6 hours. Neither have I. I'm a disaster. So am I. This is completely insane. Most good things are. Sarah kissed him in front of her 5-year-old daughter, in a car that cost more than she'd make in 10 years, in a parking lot outside a school she could never have afforded alone. She kissed him. And it felt like coming home. Alexander's house had transformed. What was once a museum of grief, silent, pristine, untouched, now exploded with life. Emma's toys colonized the living room. Sarah's medical books crowded the study. The kitchen smelled like actual cooking, not chef-prepared meals, but Sarah's simple pasta and Alexander's amateur attempts at grilled cheese. They weren't married, weren't even officially living together. Sarah kept her apartment, insisted on maintaining some independence. But they stayed here more nights than not. Emma had her own room, painted purple, full of books and stuffed animals and drawings of houses with 3 stick figures. On this particular Saturday, Alexander was teaching Emma to ride a bike in the circular driveway. Sarah watched from the porch, coffee in hand. You can do it, Alexander called. I've got you. Don't let go, Emma shrieked. I won't, trust me. And he didn't let go, not even when Emma found her balance and pedaled 3 full rotations. He ran beside her, hand on the seat, gritting like a madman. When Emma finally braked, proud and terrified and exhilarated, Alexander swept her into a hug. You did it. I flew. Mama, did you see? I flew. Sarah came down the steps. I saw, baby. You were amazing. Alexander looked at her over Emma's head. His eyes said everything. Thank you. For this. For us. For reminding me what living looks like. Sarah smiled. You did the same for me. That night, after Emma crashed early from bike riding exhaustion, Sarah and Alexander sat on his back deck. The city glittered below. Wine glasses between them. Silence that felt like communion. I've been thinking, Alexander said. Dangerous. About us. This, whatever we're doing. Sarah's heart clenched. If you're having second thoughts, I want to marry you. Sarah's wine glass slipped. Alexander caught it. What? I want to marry you. Not now. You need time. We both do. But eventually, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I want this. He gestured at the house, the life they'd built. I want it permanent. Sarah couldn't breathe. Alexander, I know I'm a mess. I know I'm grieving. I know this is fast and complicated and probably insane. But Sarah, you saved my life. Not the dramatic kind of saving. The quiet kind. The kind that happens every morning when I wake up and remember there's a reason to get out of bed. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Sarah's vision blurred. What about Claire, Marcus? They'll always be part of me. I'll always love them. but loving them doesn't mean I can't love you. I checked with my therapist. Apparently it's allowed. He smiled through his own tears. Sarah laughed and cried simultaneously. This is crazy. Is that a no? It's a, eventually. Ask me in a year, if we're still standing. If we haven't destroyed each other, if Emma still thinks you're cool, then ask me again. Alexander took her hand, kissed her knuckles, rough and scarred from work, beautiful because they were hers. 1 year, I can do that. Can you though? You're not exactly patient. For you, I'll learn. 1 year later, Alexander kept his promise. He didn't ask with a ring in champagne, or a flash mob, or skywriting. He asked at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday in their kitchen, while Sarah made coffee before her hospital shift, and Emma did homework at the table. Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? Sarah looked up from the coffee maker. Emma's head snapped up from long division. Now? Sarah asked. Like this? Exactly like this. Because this is us. Coffee and homework and Tuesday mornings. I don't want the performance. I want the life. Emma abandoned her homework. Say yes, Mama. Say yes, say yes, say yes. Sarah looked at her daughter, healthy, happy, hopeful. Then at Alexander, steady, present, home. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Emma screamed. Alexander kissed Sarah. The coffee burned. No one cared. Outside, the sun rose over the city, indifferent, eternal, beautiful. Another day was beginning. Another chance to choose love over fear, connection over isolation, hope over despair. Sarah had spent years invisible. Alexander had spent months numb. Emma had spent her childhood without a father. Now they were seen. Now they were alive. Now they were family. Not because life got easier. Not because poverty disappeared, or grief vanished, or the world suddenly became fair. But because they'd chosen each other. In a grocery store. In a restaurant. In a kitchen. On a Tuesday morning. And that choice, that simple, impossible, redemptive choice, made all the difference. The three of them stand in the kitchen as morning light pours through the windows. Emma hugs both their legs. Sarah leans into Alexander's shoulder. Alexander's eyes are closed, but he's smiling. Really smiling, the way he thought he'd never smile again. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet, is Emma's latest drawing. A house. A sun. 3 stick figures holding hands. And underneath, in her careful 5-year-old handwriting, my forever family. The frame freezes. The light holds. And for one perfect moment, broken things are whole again.